Now, the Super League season draws to a close next Friday night with its grand final at Hull. What a season that it's turned out to be, not least the fact that when 2020 got underway, there were 12 teams in the competition. As it comes to an end, there are only 11. That's because of the demise of Toronto Wolfpack. That means there is one place open for 2021. Now, clubs have been invited to place an application to be considered for that 12th place. Our own Widnes Vikings, currently playing in the Championship, have been considering what to do. Well, I'm joined on Try Time by Widnes Chief Executive Phil Finney. Good evening, Phil.
Evening, Steve. You okay?
Yeah, you well?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you.
I'm good. Well, I suppose the fans are waiting to know, Phil, whether the Vikings will be putting in an application then.
Yeah, we obviously got the information from the RFL, and as a club, we've had a look at the criteria. But to cut a long story short, Steve, the timing just isn't right for Widnes Vikings to apply to go to Super League for 2021. Whilst as a club, we've certainly got aspirations to be a Super League club. The timing just isn't right at this moment, and the stage of development where we're at as a club, it isn't the right time for us to apply for Super League in 2021. Well, I think what you've got to remember, Steve, is that whilst we're a historic, traditional and really successful club of 125 years, we're only 20 months old as a business, and when we've looked at, where we are, we spent 2019 dealing with the consequences of administration, which was, as you can imagine, was difficult for not only the people at the club, but also the supporters and the sponsors. That was a huge hurdle to overcome. And this year, like everybody else throughout the world of sport and the world, we're dealing with the consequences of COVID, which obviously there's no clear end in sight yet. So, to attempt to return to Super League for 2021, it would be contrary to our aims and objectives of becoming a sustainable and successful club, for many generations to come. We haven't even had a full season yet. We haven't gone through a full pre-season, a full playing season and a review cycle since the new business has started back in March 2019. So, that's a little bit of, I suppose, rationale from internally from the club there. But also, Steve, if you look externally, there's no broadcast deal currently in place beyond 2021. I know that the RFL and Super League are working really hard, on that, and I'm sure that there will be. But as it stands, there's no certainty that there is a broadcast deal in place. The funding levels, you got £1 million to go into Super League versus 1.8 million, roughly 1.8 million pounds that the other clubs will be receiving in the way of distributions. So there's not. It wouldn't be a level playing field. It would be very, very difficult. And added to those difficulties, I'm not sure at the moment, about the governance of Super League, and the relationship that Super League, has with the RFL. I think that, there is uncertainty and obviously there's some volatility, at this moment in time. And let's not forget that around that Super League table, there's been some decisions, made that have hurt Widnes Vikings as a club. Now, we're not feeling sorry for ourselves here. There was a group of people sat around that Super League table in 2018 that were encouraged to give us a parachute payment following our relegation. A lot of that money was advanced to Widnes, and despite that money supposed to be utilised to help the club get back to Super League, it wasn't, and we went into administration. So, rightfully so, there were some unhappy people around that table and in that forum, and they chose that reducing our academy funding and not giving us the rest of the parachute payment was, I suppose, a course of action that they wanted to take that would compensate them for what had happened. So, there's lots of reasons why we can't make the decision to go for Super League at this moment in time, and one of them is that it's just too much of a risk for us.
Yeah, and you will know then, and you'll understand that there'll be mixed feelings from the fans tonight. Some will say, come on, let's shoot for the moon. Others will totally get where you're coming from and that. And that's what you've got to do. I'm guessing, listening to you there, Phil, what's behind this is the long-term sustainability of the Vikings, isn't it?
Yeah, of course it is, yeah. There's some really practical issues as well, Steve. They want the application to be made on the 30th of November, and whoever's successful is going to find out on the 16th of December. That doesn't give you an awful lot of time to adequately prepare for what is a very, very tough competition in Super League. We've recruited a championship squad with a championship budget, with a lot of players that are more than happy to be part-time players and work in the day. There's a question, what do you do with those players, Steve? Do you suddenly have to encourage them to give up the job and go full-time, or do you have to pay them off? They're on fixed-term contracts, the players. It's not a simple case of saying, find yourself another club. We would have to, compensate them, and, if we were going to release them. And, it's just, I've had to do this for almost 3 years on the bounce now, Steve, where you're sitting down with players and asking them to take pay cuts or trying to help them to find a new club. And as I say, it's just the timing is all wrong, and it's not just from a playing point of view, the staffing point of view to compete in Super League. Where we are currently, it's not of the level that's needed. So yeah, it is about the long-term future of the club, and we 100% want to go back to Super League. We want to be in that competition. We're all supporters of the club who are involved, and we want to see ourselves competing at the top level. But you talk about Super League, Steve, and some people think of it as the land of milk and honey, but there's a perception, and there's always a reality to every situation. And I've been at Widnes for 11 years, and I've got 11 years lived experience of being part of a championship club that aspired to get to Super League. We had 7 years in Super League, and we were relegated, and then we went into administration, and Super League is a very, very difficult place to be if you're not prepared and ready to take on the challenges that come with it. And, there's the 7 seasons. To give some context, Steve, we had 7 seasons in Super League, and I'm just talking here now about the league games, because that's your bread and butter, isn't it? That'll determine your performance, and that'll determine where you end up in the league. We had 7 seasons. We finished bottom 3 times out of those 7 seasons. On average, we won a third of our games across those 7 years, which 56 wins out of 173. The very best season we had, we were just shy of 50%, and that's the year we made the playoffs. And and it got really, really bad towards the end, Steve. The worst we ever had was 13% in 2018. We won 3 games out of 23. Across the last 2 seasons, we won 8 out of 46. So, it was a very, very difficult time, to be at the club, not only for the staff, but the supporters. I believe 100% that we've got one of the most loyal and dedicated, if not the most loyal, supporter base in the sport. But it was very, very difficult to see, what was going on with Widnes at that time. So we've got to be very, very careful, what we wish for. And you've got to remember as well that at that time, there was parity in terms of the central distributions. We were getting the same as Wigan and Saints and Warrington and everybody else. And we were still performing at that level where, when you look at that, it was just clearly not acceptable. Nowhere near the results that our supporters, our sponsors, our staff, or our players, would want to be at. And, you could argue that possibly those results could be expected if the expenditure, had have been really low. But let's remember, the expenditure that was being outlaid at that time, led us to administration. So in order to enter Super League, we've got to make sure that we do it, in the right way and that we're ready to take on those challenges. If we enter it prematurely, Steve, the same could happen again. And obviously we want to avoid that at all costs. Make sure, as you say, we want to become sustainable. We need to plot a route to try and get to Super League. But when we get there, we want to stay there. And it is going to be a tough and an arduous route. But I 100% believe, and the board believes that that's the way that we need to do it.
You've not taken this decision lightly, you and the board together, listening to you, Phil, and talking about your past experience in Super League then. Did that play a part in your thinking as well? And if you do still aspire to Super League, as you say, you do, right? So are you already beginning to plot out a path to get into it eventually, however that would happen?
Yeah, definitely. It's not a decision that's taken lightly because, like our supporters, like I mentioned before, we are supporters of the club. I'm a Widnesian. There's members of the board. The chairman of the board is a Widnesian. Roger Harrison is. Rod Steele is. Jason Shaw is. And the rest of the board members are passionate supporters of the club as well. So, we want to be competing at the very highest level, but we can't jeopardise. We can't jeopardise the future of the club. By trying to get there before we're ready, and we have started to, plot a route in. First of all, we've got to get out the Championship. That's no easy feat, but we want to do that in the right way. And we want to get to Super League, Steve, by actually being promoted and winning the competition. The last time we got there, it was similar in a way to this now, where we had to put an application in. And let's be quite frank now. People can write strategic plans and they can make promises on paper. But, if you look back at the criteria from the last time around, everybody was supposed to be having, all singing and dancing stadiums. And there's still clubs in Super League that have got the very same stadium that they had back then. So, you can write these plans down, but whether they actually materialise operationally is a different thing. So we've got to get out of the Championship. But then importantly, we've got to find a way to stay in Super League. We've got our own unique challenges and constraints, as a club and as a town, but so have everybody else. And we've got to find out exactly, what works for Widnes Vikings to be in Super League. We can't try and copy Warrington, Wigan or Leeds. I genuinely believe that with the right planning and the right approach and obviously, very, very careful, financial management of the club, that we can get to Super League and we can stay there.
Phil, you've made your decision today then. Well, whenever you made your decision. So now is now. And you're planning for 2021 then in the Championship. That's your whole focus here. So where are you up to with that? Are you happy enough that when the season does and when it starts again, that you'll be in a good position to challenge in this competition then?
Yeah, definitely. We've obviously had some turnover in players. That was a really conscious decision. We were looking, I suppose, for a bit more experience and a bit more seniority, particularly in the forwards. And I think in the likes of, Matt Cook, Paul Clough, and Lee Jewett, I think we've found that. We've obviously got, I think, arguably the best spine in the Championship in Danny Craven, Matty Smith-Logan, and Jack Owens. I think that is the envy of a lot of clubs. So we're really happy about that. And obviously we've had a change in coach as well. And I've not said too much about Simon Finnegan at this moment in time, but when the opportunity came around for Simon to look at the job with the club, I was absolutely blown away by his commitment to the club and his understanding of the club, and his clear enthusiasm to try to make sure that we do go on this journey. He was fully aware of the challenges that we've got, and buys into what we're trying to achieve. So I'm really, really excited. The boys are due to start training at the start of December, Steve. So we've had a lot of work going on behind the scenes in terms of making what they call a designated sporting environment, which in essence is just the gym and the pitch, but making sure it's COVID secure. We've spent an awful lot of time Ryan O'Brien in particular has been leading on that. So yeah, we're ready to get going and very excited about next year.
We've heard today as well that the governments are putting some more money into rugby league, Phil, £12 million to try to ensure that no clubs come unstuck permanently, if you like. And you know at Widnes what you had to do 2 years ago there in actually saving the club in a week. So you're happy that this money's come into the game, and what would you like to see done with it?
Well, I think, first of all, I think I'm happy to see that the government have recognised the support that's needed. But I think it's, that support comes on the back of the hard work, that the RFL have put into this. Ralph Rimmer and the executive team at the RFL, have done an amazing job. And let's remember that they're doing it for Super League as well. They're not just doing it for the Championship and League One. It's for Super League. It's for the community game. I've noticed there's some information in there about the Women's Super League as well, so that it's right across the sport. And I think that, we are a sport, we saw it ourselves, Steve. We are a sport that sort of comes together in our time, times of sort of need. We've been, we're an outstanding example of that, how good our supporters were and all of our commercial partners back in 2019. We wouldn't be here if it wasn't for them. So I think the RFL have done a great job, in securing that additional funding. And I would just like to make sure, I would like to see it being spent, Steve, on the right things. We've seen some signings recently, into the sport, which personally, you raise a few eyebrows. We're in the middle of a global pandemic, and there's overseas players being signed, being brought back over here. I'd like to make sure that there's some scrutiny around, how that money is being spent.
Phil, can I ask you then, 2021, let's be positive for the Vikings. Now, we definitely know where you're going into the Championship. Recruitment finished yet?
It's finished, as it stands yet, we're finished. We've recruited a few more of our younger players, so promotions sort of from the academy, which will be announced in due course. So we've got a squad of 24, I think it is, off the top of my head. So yeah, we're gonna wait for the time being, because there's still uncertainty, Steve, in terms of when the season's going to start. Releasing your season tickets. How we're going to go about doing that, because as we know, we don't know what the season's going to look like yet. So I think what we're going to do now, we're just going to monitor the market, see what's out there, and then make a decision when we've got a bit more information.
Phil, really appreciate your time and coming on the programme and revealing, what the way forward is for the Vikings. So finally then, what's your message to the Widnes fans? Some, as we said, will probably be a bit disappointed that that's what you've decided to do. Others will think, of course, it's the right thing to do. So you're right, that you have got a real core of loyal fans at Widnes. So what's your message to them moving forward tonight then?
The message is that we're very aspirational, but at the same time we're really realistic, and we're under no illusions that we've got a really, really hard journey ahead of us to get back to Super League and to become a consistent club in Super League. But we're not going to be able to do it without our supporters. We need the supporters to get behind us, and understand why we've made these decisions. I, and the board would love nothing more than, to be in a semi-final tonight like Wigan and Hull are. But as it stands, we aren't ready for that. But I want to reassure our supporters and everybody that we work with that we're doing everything possible we can behind the scenes to safeguard the future of our club and try to return it to what it once was.